You know, I thought retirement would be peaceful. Sleep in, drink coffee on the porch, maybe yell at some squirrels for old time's sake. I wasn't asking for much. But apparently, the Homeowners Association, or as I now call them, the Hellspawn Oppression Agency, had different plans. Let me set the scene. I'd spent decades in the city, battling corporate scumbags in the courtroom. It was fun while it lasted, but eventually, I got tired of the grind. My wife, God rest her soul, always talked about moving somewhere quiet, somewhere without all the noise and chaos. When she passed, I figured I'd honor that wish. Found a nice little place in the suburbs, away from the madness, and settled in. It was perfect. Trees, fresh air, neighbors who weren't trying to stab each other over parking spots. Peace. Until the HOA decided to remind me that hell exists on Earth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about her first. The day after I moved in, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find an elderly woman standing there, holding a plate of cookies like she just stepped out of a Hallmark movie. "Hi there," she chirped. "I'm Margaret. Welcome to the neighborhood." Now, I'm not an idiot. I've seen enough courtroom battles to know that free gifts always come with strings attached. But Margaret? She was different. Genuine. She handed me the cookies, homemade, still warm, and smelling like childhood nostalgia. We talked for a bit. She'd lived in the neighborhood for decades, lost her husband a few years back, and basically knew everyone within a 10-mile radius. The kind of person who waved at passing cars because she knew everyone in the neighborhood. "You'll like it here," she assured me. "Mostly quiet, good people, just be careful with the HOA." Ah yes. The first warning. I raised an eyebrow. That bad? She hesitated. Well, they can be strict. Strict. That was an interesting choice of words. But at the time, I didn't think much of it. I was too busy enjoying the fact that, for the first time in years, I didn't have to deal with depositions or legal briefs. I was free. Or so I thought. A few weeks passed. I fell into a comfortable routine, morning walks, books on the porch, the occasional chat with Margaret. We weren't exactly best friends, but there was something easy about our conversations. No pretense, no small talk just for the sake of it. Just two old souls, enjoying whatever time we had left. Then one evening, everything changed. I had just pulled into my driveway when I saw Margaret standing in her yard, staring at a letter in her hands. She wasn't smiling. In fact, she looked like someone had just kicked her puppy. Now, I'm not a nosy guy. But this wasn't normal. "Hey Margaret," I called out, stepping closer. "Something wrong?" She looked up, forced a small smile, then glanced back at the letter. I missed some HOA payments," she murmured. "At least, that's what they say. And now, they're taking my house." I blinked. "Excuse me? Wait. What?" She handed me the letter. I scanned it quickly, my lawyer brain already switching into high gear. The wording was slick, just vague enough to confuse the average person, just threatening enough to make them panic. But I wasn't the average person. And I definitely didn't panic. See, most people panic when they get a legal threat from the HOA. They don't know the law, they don't have the time or money to fight back, and HOA boards count on that. It's their favorite trick, bully someone until they break. But they made a crucial mistake. They picked the wrong target. "This is a scam," I muttered. "A blatant, shameless scam." Margaret sighed. "I don't know what to do." I folded the letter neatly, tucked it under my arm, and gave her the kind of reassuring nod I used to give clients before walking into court. "Don't worry," I said. "I'll handle it." Back at home, I did what any retired lawyer with too much time on his hands would do. I dug deep. See, when you've spent decades in the courtroom, dismantling smug corporate lawyers piece by piece, you develop a certain appreciation for the game. And this was shaping up to be one hell of a game. In afternoon, when I was sitting at my kitchen table, the letter from the HOA spread out in front of me, along with a hefty stack of documents I had dug up in the past few hours. Local property laws. Past complaints against them, because of course there were past complaints. Then, I pulled up the HOA's bylaws. And that's when things got interesting. See, most HOAs have the legal right to issue fines, enforce neighborhood rules, and even place liens on properties. But outright seizing a house over missed payments? That was a whole different beast. One that, in this case, was very, very illegal. Someone, Karen, was playing dirty. And the best part? The legal equivalent of a loaded gun was sitting right in front of me, just waiting to be fired. Karen and her HOA minions thought they were untouchable. They thought they could intimidate an old woman out of her house with some fraudulent paperwork and no one would notice. They were so wrong. I took a sip of my coffee, leaned back in my chair, and smiled to myself. This was going to be fun. The first step in any good legal takedown is information. You don't just charge in guns blazing, you collect dirt, build a case, and wait for the perfect moment to strike. So, first things first, I called Margaret. "Hello," she answered, sounding a little groggy. "Margaret, it's me," I said. "Listen, I need you to do something for me. Do you have all your payment records? Receipts, bank statements, anything that shows you've been paying your HOA fees?" She hesitated. "I think so." "Why?" "Because we're about to prove these bastards are full of it." A pause. Then, for the first time since this whole mess started, I heard something in her voice. Hope. "I'll gather everything I have," she said. "Good. I'll swing by later to pick them up." I hung up and immediately made another call. If there's one thing corporate law teaches you, it's that power comes from knowing the right people. And I just so happened to know exactly the right person. "Hey Sam," I said when my old colleague picked up. Well, if it isn't the legend himself," Sam chuckled. "If it isn't the man who once made a Fortune 500 CEO cry on the stand. What's the occasion? Retirement not exciting enough for you?" "Oh, you have no idea," I replied. "Listen, I need a favor. Some bad people need a lesson in the law. You in?" "Always." "Who are we dealing with?" "The HOA." There was a pause. Then, Sam laughed. "Man, you're just spoiling me," he said. I filled him in on the details. Margaret's house, the fake missed payments, the blatant fraud. "Jesus," he muttered. "That's some next-level scumbaggery." "Yeah. And I want to bury them." "You know I love a good legal bloodbath," Sam said. "Tell you what, send me everything you have. I'll get my team on it, dig up any past lawsuits or shady dealings they've been involved in." "Perfect," I said. "Also, can you draft up a preliminary lawsuit? Something that'll make them sweat." Sam laughed. "Oh, buddy. I'll draft something that'll make them cry." The next morning, I walked over to Margaret's house, letter in hand. "Everything's gonna be fine," I told her. "I promise." She sighed in relief. "I don't know how to thank you." "Cookies," I deadpanned. "Lots of cookies." She laughed, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I saw the tension in her shoulders ease a bit. We sat down on her porch, drinking tea and eating the best damn cookies I'd ever had, while the HOA had no idea what was coming for them. They wanted to steal an old woman's house? Oh, HOA. Bad move. You just poked the wrong bear. They were about to learn exactly what happens when you mess with a retired lawyer who has nothing but free time and a deep, personal hatred for bureaucratic bullshit. Oh, it was gonna be glorious. By the next evening, I had everything I needed. Margaret's full payment records, which proved she never missed a dime. A legal argument outlining exactly how the HOA's threats violated state law. Dirt on Karen and her board members. Turns out, this wasn't their first scam. A beautifully worded lawsuit, courtesy of Sam, ready to be served at just the right moment. Now all that was left was to make a scene. And lucky for me, the perfect opportunity was coming up. The next HOA meeting was in 2 days. I could have handled everything quietly, sent a legal notice, let the system take care of it. But where's the fun in that? No, I wanted to see Karen's face when she realized her little empire was about to crumble. So, I waited. And when the day came, I put on my best suit, grabbed my folder of evidence, and headed out with Margaret by my side. We were about to turn that meeting into Karen's worst nightmare. If you've never been to an HOA meeting, Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a group of middle-aged suburbanites, half of them drunk on the power of enforcing lawn height restrictions, the other half too tired to care. Now put them in a small stuffy room, add some folding chairs, and give them a leader with a god complex. That was the battlefield. And tonight? I was bringing the war. Margaret and I arrived early. She was nervous, kept fidgeting with the strap of her purse. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered. I patted the folder in my hands. "Oh, I've never been more sure of anything in my life." We took our seats near the front. The room gradually filled with homeowners, most of whom looked bored out of their minds. They had no idea they were about to witness the greatest HOA meltdown in history. Then, at exactly 6 p.m., in strutted Karen. Karen, in all her overinflated self-importance, took her spot at the head table, flanked by her minions, the HOA treasurer, who looked like a weasel in a polo shirt, and the secretary, who seemed like she deeply regretted every life choice that led her here. She cleared her throat, plastered on her usual fake smile, and began. "Good evening, everyone," she chirped. "We have a lot to go over tonight, so let's get started." She droned on about landscaping regulations, mailbox uniformity, and some nonsense about trash cans being an eyesore if left out for too long. The usual HOA dictatorship talk. Finally, after 20 minutes of bureaucratic hell, she got to the fun part. "And now we must address a rather unfortunate situation," she said, glancing smugly in Margaret's direction. "As you all know, our HOA has strict rules about timely dues payments. Unfortunately, Mrs. Thompson has failed to meet her obligations, and per our bylaws, we have no choice but to proceed with reclaiming her property." I heard Margaret inhale sharply next to me. I just smiled. This was it. Showtime. I stood up. "Actually, Karen, I have a question about that." The room fell silent. Karen's smile flickered. "Oh? And you are?" "John Carter," I said, nice and loud. "Margaret's neighbor. Also, just a retired lawyer with a keen interest in HOA regulations." The air shifted. I saw a few heads turn. Karen folded her arms. "Well, Mr. Carter, this isn't really up for debate." "Oh, but I think it is," I cut in, stepping forward. "Because I have here," I held up the folder, "proof that Margaret has paid every single one of her dues on time." "Meaning, this entire foreclosure attempt? It's fraud." Silence. Then someone in the back went, "Oh, SH'd." Karen's face did this weird twitchy thing. That's ridiculous." "Is it?" I said. "Because I've got bank statements, receipts, and HOA transaction records that say otherwise. And if that's not enough, I also have a copy of the HOA's financials, which, fun fact, show quite a few irregularities. Would you like to explain where the extra legal processing fees have been going?" I swear, the treasurer nearly choked on his own saliva. Karen's smile was gone. "I don't know what you think you've found, but—" "Oh, it's not just me," I interrupted. "You see, Karen, I wasn't sure if this was just incompetence or something worse. So, I had a friend take a look." I turned toward the back of the room and gave a little nod. And that's when Sam stood up. Sam wasn't just any lawyer. He was a state attorney, and tonight? He was the HOA's worst nightmare. He strolled up to the front, all confidence and sharp suits, and casually placed a thick envelope on the table in front of Karen. "Karen," he said, like he was talking to a child. "You've been served." The color drained from her face. The treasurer looked like he was about to bolt. The secretary straight up moved her chair away from them. What is this?" Karen stammered. "That," Sam said, "is a formal lawsuit from the State Attorney General's office. Multiple violations, including financial fraud, illegal property seizures, and misallocation of HOA funds. Oh, and before you try to weasel out of it, yes, we already have all the evidence." Karen's jaw hit the floor. The treasurer looked like he was about to throw up. Secretary actively started backing toward the exit. You could have heard a pin drop. Then the room erupted and started the shouting. "Wait, what? They were stealing our money? This is unbelievable. Did you really steal from us? Where's all our money, Karen?" Does this mean we don't have to pay those stupid fines? Chaos. Beautiful, glorious chaos. Margaret whispered, I think they're mad. I grinned. Oh, sweetheart. They're furious. Karen looked around, realizing she had just lost control. She slammed a hand on the table. This is outrageous. None of this is true. I leaned in slightly. Then you won't mind taking it up in court, I said, grinning. You know, under oath. And just like that, she shut up. Karen resigned the next day. The treasurer vanished like a cockroach when the lights come on. The HOA, facing a full-blown state investigation, was dissolved within a month. Margaret? She kept her house. Not only that, but the new neighborhood committee, made up of sane people, refunded all her bogus late fees. And me? Well, I got free cookies for life. One evening, I was sitting on Margaret's porch, sipping tea and watching the sun go down. She placed a fresh plate of cookies on the table and sat down beside me. You know, she said, I think I actually like retirement now. I smirked. Told you I'd handle it. She reached over, gave my hand a gentle squeeze, and chuckled. Remind me never to get on your bad side. I just smiled, took another sip of tea, and watched as the last traces of the HOA's reign of terror faded into the sunset. The end. Or, as I like to call it, don't mess with old lawyers.